Okay, so I never reread books, right? I don't believe I've ever reread a single book just because there's so many great books out there. The world is full of books and I want to get to as many as possible. That's not to say that I'm one of these people who's reading like 2, 3 books a week. I have phases where I read more than others, but it just always seemed like a waste of time to read a book that I've already read. However, when I was like 13 or 14, I loved the book Johnny Tremain. Like, that had me absolutely under a spell. Um, and just recently I got to thinking, I wonder if that book would live up to my memory of it because it's been so long, like, it's been over 10 years since I've read it. And I figured after a wait like that, it would hardly even be like rereading it, right? Like, it would kind of be like reading it for the first time. And I thought, why not give it a try? And so I went into it sort of expecting it to be a letdown. I was like, there's no way this is as good as I remember it. Boy, was I wrong. This is literally every bit as good as my 13-year-old self remembered it. So, if you don't know, Johnny Tremain is about a boy who is a apprentice to a silversmith during, well, not during, right before the Revolutionary War. And so, right near the beginning of the book, I think it might even be at the first chapter. Like, it's like the jumping off point for the whole plot. He burns his hand, right? So he's working like super long hours trying to get this particular project done, like over the weekend that he really wants to finish because he's trying to impress a really important client. Um, I think it's John Hancock because John Hancock is one of the main characters. Well, not one of the main characters, but one of the more important characters in this book, as are several other like real world, revolutionary figures. Anywho, the point is he really wants to impress this guy, so he's really trying to get this smithing project done. I think it's a cup or a pie. It doesn't really matter. But anywho, um, so yeah, he burns his hand, right? So silver spills all over the like forge or whatever, and so as he's going to clean it up, he trips and he reaches out to catch himself, and he accidentally sticks his hand in the like molten silver, right? And the scene of him sticking his hand in the silver is one of the most chilling scenes I've ever read in a book because it really, to me, gives you that sense of panic. Like, you read it and you're like, he's there frozen in the moment. Like, he doesn't feel any pain right that second, but then he lifts his hand and his hand is coated in like a glove of silver. And when you read it, you're just like, oh shit, right? Like, I remember that was the first time I had like a physical reaction to a book. Like, my body like tensed up as I was reading it for the first time when I was like 13. And now rereading it at 28, my reaction was almost as strong. Um, the author, oh fuck, I can't remember the name of the author, but she has such a way with words. She just has incredible prose. She has such a way of making you empathize with the character, with the situations. Like, she really puts you in the scene in a way that I think very, very few, is it Esther Forbes? I think it's Esther Forbes. Anyway, very few authors can do. There's another scene later in the book where Johnny Tremain is seeing this wealthy woman named Lavinia Light for the first time. And the way Lavinia is described in the book is, this is God's honest truth. I think it's the best physical description of a character in a book I have ever seen in my entire life. Um, the book doesn't just say she was really beautiful. I hate when books do that. That's just like, don't show, don't tell. You know what I mean? I mean, like, it's a book, so like really you can only tell, but like give me the illusion that you're showing me rather than telling me, if that makes sense. And this book does just that. I can't even like recreate it. But there is one particular line that stands out to me. So Lavinia has a scar right between her eyebrows. I don't believe it's ever elaborated on how she got this scar. Um, but the author states something like, this scar was like the only time God's like chisel had slipped when he was carving her face, or something like that. Like, the way that this book really convinces you that this woman is just absolutely stunning is just perfection. And the other thing that is great is, so Lavinia is not a particularly nice character at all. Um, Johnny is poor and essentially crippled because his hand is still messed up from the burn, right? Well, even after the burn heals, so his thumb is like fused to his palm. I can't really do it while I'm holding the mic. But basically, he can't use his dominant hand for like much of anything, basically. So yeah, he's poor and crippled, and so he is looked down upon by most of society. And Lavinia does not mind treating him like he is just completely disposable, right? But he still goes out of her way to go like be around her just because she's that damn good looking. And like, there's a scene where she's riding her horse. And when she stops, she like waves him over, and she's like, "Hey, come help me down off of my horse." So he does, and then she's like, "All right, now go stable my horse." And the whole time he's like, internally he's like, "This fucking bitch, I don't have to listen to her, I'm not her servant." But he still does it, and he still like seeks out opportunities to hang out with her. Not hang out, because they're from very different social classes, they don't hang out per se, but to be around her just because he likes looking at her so damn much. And the book really does a good job of selling you on the idea of like, yeah, she's just that good looking, which is, it's fantastic to read. The other thing I really like about this book is the character Rab. So Rab is a guy that Johnny Tremain just kind of meets completely at random while wandering the city, being sad about his fucked up hand, because like his hand is all messed up. And mind you, he was an incredible apprentice, right? So he was basically like, he's 14 years old, and he was basically like already almost as good, if not better, of a silversmith than the guy who was training him to be a silversmith. Like, he's an absolute prodigy, right? And so once his hand is all messed up, it's like he knows he's never gonna smith again. So like, his life is basically over, right? Or that's how he feels. So he's just wandering the streets forlornly, and he meets this guy named Rab. And so Rab, he ends up having lunch with Rab, and like, he's telling Rab about his situation. And Rab is very empathetic to him, but not sympathetic. Like, Rab doesn't really offer any kind of like, words of comfort. He doesn't really like outwardly show that he cares all that much. Which is exactly what Johnny wants, right? Johnny doesn't want Rab's sympathy. He's got sympathy in spades, and it doesn't do him any good. Like, there are people who like feel bad for him, and there are people who like wish him well. There are these two, so Johnny lives in like almost like a foster home, I guess, kind of setting. I'm not exactly sure how to describe it, but there are these two other girls who are like his like foster, I don't know how to explain it, but they all like live in the same like orphanage like type of setting. And so there's two other girls that like, they just make fun of her, each other, like all the time, in like a good natured way. Like, there's one scene before his burn where it's like, it says something like, before he started to work, he wanted to make sure that he got a chance to go trade insults with the girls. Like, they're just mean to each other all the time, but in a way that is very playful and good natured. But then after the burn, they stop making fun of him, and like, they stop teasing him, and they're just nice to him. And like, he hates it because it's like, he doesn't want that. He just wants to be treated like he's normal, right? So he goes and meets Rab, and he tells him of his whole plight, and Rab just doesn't care. Like, not that he doesn't care that like he's been through a lot, on the contrary, but Rab, he listens to his tale about how his hand got messed up, and he's like, yeah, cool, whatever. And that's what Johnny needs in that moment, is just like a guy to treat him like a bro, right? So he ends up friends with Rab, and they end up working at the same like newspaper company. And the whole time, Rab is just like a dude, you know what I mean? He's not like very flowery or sentimental. He's just a normal person who treats Johnny like he's normal. And that's so important to Johnny at that like period of his life. Rab, honestly, like, I would read a whole book about Rab because he's just so fascinating. He is really wise beyond his years. I think he's only like a year or so older than Johnny is, but he's very slow to anger. He's very like he really thinks about things before he does it. The vast majority of the time, he doesn't have that impulsiveness that you would expect like a boy in his like mid-teens to have. There's one scene where so a kid is getting bullied, right? I forget under what circumstances, but a kid is getting bullied, and so Johnny and Rab both go to help the kid, and then like a whole bunch of other people join in to help the bully, and it turns into this like whole big fight, right? And Johnny gets his butt kicked, like he's covered in like bruises and cuts and whatnot. Because like the bully's like his whole family, like his like the bully's siblings and his dad, and I think even like his grandmother or something. Like it's crazy. But yeah, so anyway, it's this whole big fight, and Johnny like they win, but Johnny like he got messed up in the process, right? And as they're walking away from the fight, like Rab doesn't have a scratch on him. The only like notificate like the only way you would know Rab was in a fight was he just has this like peculiar smile on his face. Like he had fun with the fight, right? And Johnny remarks that it's curious that somebody who is A, so good at fighting, and B, clearly enjoys fighting, never seems to go looking for a fight. And I just think that's a really cool quality. Another thing that I really like about this book is the way the British are portrayed. So this is again like a year or two before the Revolutionary War starts. Like it's definitely brewing, but it hasn't started yet. And so the British people are around, and the British troops, with some exception, are just so surprisingly humane. Like there's an opportunity here to portray the British as monsters. I'm sure a lot of people saw them that way back then, and I'm sure a lot of the British troops probably were monsters. But within this book, they're kind of just like regular guys, you know what I mean? There's one particular British officer named Lieutenant Stranger who is, you know, he can be stern at times, but he is surprisingly like nice to Johnny, and it's not just polite, but it's like genuine compassion, right? So Johnny has this horse named Goblin. And the horse is named Goblin because it like will buck practically anyone who tries to ride it. It's got this like major temper. Nobody likes the horse except for Johnny and Rab. And or nobody likes it initially, right? And so Rab ends up explaining to Johnny, Goblin's not a bad horse. He's not an angry horse. He's just scared, like all of the time. So he lashes out because Goblin is afraid of anything, of everything, right? And so this British officer working above Lieutenant Stranger wants Goblin because Goblin's a beautiful horse. And so Stranger takes Goblin for like a test drive, or a test ride, I guess, to see if he wants to like confiscate him for his commanding officer. And because Goblin is so jumpy, Johnny he takes like a bed sheet or something like that, and he like I don't know, like I'm trying to think how to describe it. He like whips it like you would like a like the red cape in like a bullfight, right? And it causes Goblin to like get startled, and then he throws Lieutenant Stranger off of him. And Lieutenant Stranger comes up to Johnny. He's like, "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" And Johnny kind of tries to like squirm out of it. And Lieutenant Stranger, as he's like questioning him about it, he realizes Johnny just really didn't want his horse to go be made into an army horse that's gonna charge into war and maybe get shot and die, right? And so Lieutenant Stranger, like he sort of like on the surface is mean about it. Like he's like, we didn't want your dumb horse anyway. But Johnny is able to feel like sort of like he's able to feel the fact that like Lieutenant Stranger is letting him off the hook. Like he's having compassion on him because he knows that Johnny just really doesn't want to lose his horse, right? And there's a lot of examples like that where British troops and officers will behave in ways that is like genuinely admirable in a way. And I think that adds like such an interesting layer to the book because it's not as simple as like the Minutemen are the good guys and the British are the bad guys. There's more to it than that, right? Anyway, this is at 15 minutes now, and I'm trying to make my videos less long and less rambly, so I'm gonna wrap this up. But for now, the point is, yeah, Johnny Tremain is a fantastic book. I loved it when I was a kid, and I still love it now. Would highly recommend.